Hello, we are live today. 𝗥𝗚𝗦𝗘𝗥𝗡
Yes, we are.
𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗡𝗥. Unlike last week, where we had
Yeah,
6 people participating, now we have 2.
yeah.
So here we are. It's me and Henry. I see Muriel in the audience saying hi out there.
Hello, Muriel.
Indeed. How you doing, Henry? How's your week been?
Well, it's been good. I have a companion with me today. She is my 2-year-old Labradoodle, Penny. The problem is Penny lost her reproductive rights on Thursday, and
Oh,
she is a high. Labradoodles are high energy, and she has to turn that high energy off. That has not been the
poor
easiest thing
thing.
for the last couple of days, but she is doing fine. She is just not one to want to hold back if she doesn't have to.
Yeah, poor baby.
Yeah,
Yeah, when I did that to my cats, and they didn't like it very much either.
yeah. I think
Well,
I'm getting to that point
mhm.
where the next one I get, if we get another one, we're gonna get it later in life, maybe 2 or 3 instead of a puppy, and then hopefully that experience will already be past.
Yeah, yeah. I think we did it when the cats were 8 months old, if I remember right. They were still
Yeah.
pretty young, and it didn't sit well. They kind of lost their senses. Um, we've lost Jonathan today because he's not feeling well,
Yeah.
and Colton said he'll join us in an hour. Meaning he'll be for wine grain, but he can't be here right now.
Excuse me.
You all right? What time
Yeah.
is it?
It's 2 p.m. It's just I haven't it's 24/7 watching over a dog with a lot of energy doesn't always leave as much time for sleeping as you'd like. But it's not because of the salt. It's because of the extraneous circumstances.
Well, I'll teach you this word that I've typed out in the chat. It's called schnatz.
Schnatz.
Schnatz. Yeah.
Not schnapps,
So the
like
word
in
the
German
word for sleep is shena,
right?
shena, and so and the word for afternoon or afternoon anyway is tzohoraim, tzohoraim. So shnat tzohoraim is the sleep of the noon, which means a nap,
Right.
afternoon nap. Schnatz.
You
Indeed.
are a font of knowledge like I have never seen before. I did not know
That,
that.
that's
I knew
that's what
both
you need. You need a schnatz.
a schnapps, probably some schnapps as well. But yes, an afternoon nap is on my list when this is done. So
Indeed. We'll say hi to Santana, who's joined us in the audience as well. So we got a couple
hello,
of viewers. We're
Jonathan.
going to go ahead and jump into this, I think.
Sure.
I'm using a different site today because last week we did Step Bible. This week, if you go to mechonmamre.org, that's in the address bar up there. Mechon Mamre, I'll go ahead and make this full screen, has a lot of resources, and I will also cut off our names because I don't think we need them. I'm Jason, that's Henry. Okay, so they have a lot of resources for Hebrew Bible study. Now, the complete Hebrew Bible, you just go down to the list of resources. The Hebrew Bible in 5 editions, one in Hebrew, including cantillation marks. This is the one that I always use. The English JPS 1917, parallel Hebrew and English, parallel Hebrew and French. They've got Targum Onkelos, the Targum on the Torah, with vowels and without vowels, a parallel Hebrew and Aramaic Torah, Tikkun Korim. This is interesting. This one you choose like a chapter from the Torah, and you're trying to learn to read it without vowels. When you mouse when you move your mouse over the word, it gives you the vowels and and also the trope. So I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around, but it adds the markings to the words. So that's good for people who are trying to learn to read without vowels.
Yep.
Tikkun Korim, it's called. I have a big copy of Tikkun Korim here somewhere. I would have to dig around and find it. It's in a box. We've got the Rambam's complete restatement of the oral Torah called the Mishneh Torah, without vowels or with vowels. It's got its introduction in English, parallel Hebrew and English, the sources of the oral law. It's got the Mishnah, Tosefta, Talmud Yerushalmi, Bavli. Important. And all of this is for free online, so it's a really nice site.
Sure looks good.
So I go here to cantillation, the Hebrew with cantillation marks, which is the traditional Masoretic text. And then the three divisions of the Hebrew Bible are Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. And then, so the third part has got the Chronicles, Psalm, Job, Proverbs, and so on. So the section we want is Tehillim. Tehillim, Psalms. That's where we're going to go. We're going to go to.
Can you go back one screen? Can you go back one screen?
Yeah.
It's interesting that they start with 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗧. In the VHS that I have, in most of the other versions, the 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗧 is last in the Ketuvim, not first.
Because in the last in the Ketuvim, because it takes the order from the Christian Bible. Christian Bible ends in Second Chronicles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's weird because if you think of the contents of Shmuel Aleph and Bet, like Samuel A and B, and Melachim, Kings A and B, the content pulls a lot into Chronicles, Divrei Yamim A and B.
But the order of the prophets, the order in the prophets, the latter prophets is traditional, right?
Well, it's weird because the content is the same, but the division of the books is completely different. Like that Samuel and Kings are considered to be part of the prophets, but Chronicles, which is has so many parallels with them, is not in the prophets. It's in the writings.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting. BHS, which is the one I use, BHS, and I think the one from I think I had a small pocket one from Korean back when I wore a younger man's clothes. I think that their First and Second Chronicles were last in the writings, not first. So anyway, that was just an interesting thing I saw.
Yeah. It probably is to match the order of the Christian Bible, because the Jewish Bible and Christian Bible are divided up a bit differently.
Yes, they definitely are.
Yeah. So what we have here is Tanakh, which is the Bible, Hebrew Bible. Tehillim is the name of the Psalms, and then Perek means chapter. So you've got Perek Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, and this counts like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yod is 10. Yod Aleph is 11. Yod Bet, Yod Gimel, and so on. So we're going to go to Kaf, because you've got Yod is 10, Kaf is 20, and Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Vav is 6. So we're going 26. When we go to 26, this pulls up the text that we want to read. These are all the Psalms. So Tehillim, Perek, Kaf, Vav. Kaf, Vav is 26, which is 26. All right, because I was kind of thinking I was going to end up here alone, I was thinking about just reading the text a lot, just like reading it several times, not spending as much time getting stuck in translation, but to indeed translate it, but to try to like feel the Hebrewness of the text. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I thought I was going to be alone, so I thought I was just going to read a lot. But let's go ahead and get started. LeDavid, Shofteni Adonai, Shofteni, that's O. Shofteni Adonai, ki ani betumi alachti, uva Adonai batachti, lo emad. Emad, it looks like the word for moed, a time, but it's not. Moed is built from the root yod ein dalet, which is for a special time, appointed time, moed, like ya'ad, destination. But this word lim'od means to stumble. I will not stumble or trip. So it says LeDavid, which is something that we've talked about already in the past couple of weeks. Shofteni Adonai, Shofteni, when he's asking God, judge me, it's the shafat, judge me, Shofteni. When he's asking God, judge me, what he means is declare me righteous, right? He's asking God to look at him and judge him and let the world know that he is good.
Correct.
Because that is I myself, in my innocence, Tom is being innocent or pure, or it's also the word for complete.
Yeah, isn't that the word that's used of Job for Job being perfect and sinless?
Yeah.
Job 1, I think.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Ani betumi halachti. I have walked in my innocence. It means I've not done anything wrong. Judge me, God, because I've not done anything wrong.
right.
And in the Lord I've trusted. Uvadonai batachti. Liftoach batachti. I have trusted. Lo emad. I will not stumble.
Right.
Right. So it's a very nice thing. I don't know that there are many of us today who would cry out to God, God, judge me because I've not done anything wrong. I don't think anybody has that kind of confidence. But David, if we're saying that this is David who wrote it, that he stands with confidence before God and asks to be judged. You want to take verse 2 again?
Sure.
The letter bet is 2. Aleph is 1. This uses Hebrew counting. So Aleph, bet, Gimel, Dalet. These are the verse markings.
Right. Sebechoneni Adonai v'naseni, and then we have a 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗘𝗧 𝗔𝗓𝗩. I think 𝗔𝗓𝗩 is the 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗘𝗧. 𝗔𝗕𝗦𝗘𝗧. Sorry.
But the one, so this is what's written in the consonantal text. This is two.
Oh, and then it's
and this is kli.
Either then it's 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗡 or it's 𝗥𝗘𝗧.
Sorfa.
𝗥𝗘𝗧. Okay. That is not the way that the Hebrew text I'm looking at has pointed it, but I will defer to your text here. 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗘𝗧 𝗥𝗑𝗦𝗦𝗑𝗓𝗡, I think. So, examine me, O Lord.
I'm pulling over the BHS. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
So BHS marks it a bit differently.
Yeah.
It wants us to ignore the vav.
That is right. I was reading the pointed ketiv instead of the kare. So that was my mistake there. So this is examine me, O Lord, and test me. And then I'm guessing then this is another masculine singular imperative. Tzaraf, purify me or refine my kidney. No, that's not right. Tzaraf.
Yeah, it is.
So refine my kidneys and my heart.
What's it mean, your kidneys?
Well, the kidneys, kidneys and the heart are, if I understand it right, in the Hebrew anthropology, they are the seat of your decision-making and your emotions. I think the kidneys are where the emotions are supposed to come from.
So many times when we read the text and it says, my heart, my heart, my heart, we think, oh, that's talking about his feelings. Yeah, but normally my heart is talking about my mind.
Right.
In Hebrew, when it says libi, it's talking about your mind, not your feelings. But kiliotai, kilia, kidney, is where the feelings, the seat of the feelings. In Greek, this is splanchna.
I'm sorry?
You've heard of this, right? Splanchna?
Splanchna?
Yeah, in Greek, the word splanchna means innards.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were referring to a Hebrew word, not a Greek word. So my mind wasn't switching between languages quickly enough. So yes.
So splanchna it's the seat of the emotions in Greek, but specifically the emotions of compassion. And so the word splanchnidzo means to have compassion, and it means it comes from your belly. Like if you cut open your belly and it spills out, these are your splanchna that spill out, your intestines. Okay. Yeah, what a word.
Yeah, and I think the first verb is again that it's the call imperative with the first common singular suffix, and it's followed by a PL imperative with the first common singular suffix. This word nasa is always interested me because of the competing claims in the Hebrew Bible, like in Numbers 23, where God does not test us. He doesn't tempt us. He doesn't change his mind. And then there are places like this where he does test us. So you saw even in Exodus, in Genesis, what is it? 22.
22, yes.
Right.
The trial of Abraham.
The 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗘𝗥. Correct.
Yeah.
So
and it uses the same word. God tested Abraham.
Right.
Mhm.
So
This
that's
word
always interesting to
in
me.
modern Hebrew is used all the time. It means both to try, like you test someone, you try him, you test him,
Right.
and it also means try, like make an effort.
Right.
Lenasot. Ani menase לעשות משהו. I'm trying to do something.
Right.
So the word is lenasot, nisa, nisa.
Jonathan has asked a question in the chat. Is there a difference between the short imperative and the long with the kamats hey? I was taught, I don't know if this is still correct. I was taught that it is typically simply an orthographic change, not a semantic one. But I do not know if that is still the current understanding of the longer imperative.
I agree. I think that, like, if you take the first verb that we had in the chapter, the word lishpot, to judge, you can say shfot oti, or you could say shofta, shofta oti, and it doesn't matter. They're the same.
Okay.
Shmor or shomra, and
that's one thing I remember correctly.
Semantically, they're the same.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You want to do number 3, Jason?
Yeah, verse number 3. Ki chastecha leneged einai. Okay, I'll read that again. Ki chastecha leneged einai, v'hitalachti ba'amitecha, v'hitalachti ba'amitecha. Okay, so he starts out with the explanation for verse 2. Why does he ask God to test me and try me and refine my emotions and thoughts, refine them? Because your steadfast love, if we take chesed as like this idea, steadfast love or loyalty to your covenant, leneged einai is before my eyes. Like I see how faithful you are, so I trust you. He's saying he trusts God to test him. V'hitalachti ba'amitecha. Now, if we take the hitalachti with the vav as hipuch, like turning it around, making it a future, I will walk around. I will hitalech, to walk around. I will walk in your truth. Emet, truth, becomes amitcha, or in the pause, amitecha.
I have never been fully convinced that this Hithpael of halach has a significant semantic difference from the call. I know that that's a common thing, but when I see passages like this, it makes me wonder if there is a significant semantic difference between the two binyan.
Well, the places that it pops up of significance, you see, first of all, where God was walking about strolling in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Right? It says mithalech. And the other one, I believe, where Enoch walked with God.
Right.
I think it uses the same yitalech. Yeah. And so I don't know that it would make sense to say vayelech chanoch im Elohim or whatever it was. We can look at that verse.
Yeah, at the end. Quick.
It's Genesis chapter, what did you say, chapter 3?
The one about God walking is chapter 3. The one about Enoch walking is chapter 5.
Yeah.
It's
verse 24.
24, 20. I was thinking, yeah, there it is. Verse 24. And Enoch walked.
ויתהלך חנוך את האלוהים, ואיננו כי לקח אותו אלוהים. I don't think it would make sense to say vayelech chanoch et Elohim, like God, Enoch went with God, because that would seem like he went away with him. But lithalech et Elohim or im Elohim means that he lives walking with him. Like it's a more progressive sense, I think.
Could be.
I think that's probably what we have here too, is this progressive sense of constantly walking in God's truth. That's what it seems like to me. If we go about verbs, we don't have any in the first phrase. It's a nominal clause. My eyes or your steadfast love is before my eyes. And then 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗘𝗥𝗡 is hitpael of halach.
Right.
And like we said, it could have the significance of constant walking, and also that it's vav consecutive. It's like I would be walking or something.
Yeah, I have a feeling. My gut says that 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗘𝗦 is not a future tense construction here. That this is a vav conjunctive, not a vav consecutive. For your covenant loyalty is before my eyes, and I am constantly walking. I am constantly walking in your truth. I am living with you in your truth. However you want to interpret that. I know that it's common to see that as a vav consecutive with a perfect meaning future. I am not 1,000% convinced that makes sense in context.
Well, just like there are simple vavs attached to 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗘𝗧, there could be a simple vav attached to a 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗧.
Well, and if you look at verse 4, you have a perfect followed by an imperfect, and again there's a conversation to be had as to whether the imperfect in verse 4 is gnomic or future, is gnomic or future, with a tense change between verse 4b and verse 4a and verse 4b.
All right.
So speaking
you want to read it?
Sure. Lo yashavti im mate shav ve'im na'alamim lo avo. So I do not dwell with with stupid people. I know that shav doesn't exactly translate over nicely.
Or would you say false people?
Or false people, deceitful people. However we want to do it. And with the, and this is not a word I'm familiar with, is it, so help me with na'alamim.
It's a nifal.
Nifal, participle, masculine plural, right? From Allah.
Normally, ne'elam means to disappear in modern Hebrew. We have it here, Mateshav and Na'alamim in parallel.
Okay, so DCH says it means to hide. So the
it's somebody that's hidden,
or to be hiding something, to be hidden or be concealed. Okay.
Mateshav could also be like worthless people. If you think of shav as something, in a worthless way, right?
DCH.
What does shav normally remind you of, like the word shav, la shav?
You shall not take the Lord's name in vain. Right?
Yeah, men of vanity or men of worthlessness.
Okay, so this is I do not dwell with worthless men or vain men or people, depending on if this is gender neutral or not, and with those who have something to hide or those who hide themselves. This is either I will not go or I do not go. And there's a conversation I think that could be had about the gnomic versus future sense of the imperfect in verse 4b.
And if they're concealing, it's probably because they're hiding what they're doing. They're being hidden, meaning that they're doing shameful things, I think.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
Yeah. Good. So verse 5 probably goes along with it. Saneti kahal mereim. Saneti kahal mereim. I have hated the assembly of evildoers. Ve'im reshaim lo eshev. Ve'im reshaim lo eshev. And with wicked men, I will not dwell. I will not dwell with wicked men. So saneti, the first verb is lisno, to hate, sane. And it is an emotive verb. It has emotions like love, hate, all that kind of thing. So many times these emotive verbs or verbs of knowledge are used in the perfect, and they mean the present tense.
Right.
So ahavti can mean I love, and saneti can mean I hate. I hate. Kahal, this is the assembly. Mereim, evildoers, assembly of evildoers. And
Right.
with reshaim, rasha. Resha is the noun, rasha is the adjective, and this is substantive adjective. Wicked people. Lo eshev. Eshev is the future of yashav, lashevet. I dwell. I will not dwell with wicked men.
So can I ask you a question about that first verb?
Mm-hmm.
You notice that saneti is pointed with a tzere under the noon instead of a kametz or a ptach. So I always learn that when the second vowel in the call is a tzere, that it's a stative verb. But the meaning to hate takes an object, so it's not intransitive, and it's not a statement like I am tall, so it doesn't fall into the normal semantic for me of what a stated verb would be. So is there a reason that you know of that this verb is pointed as a stative, even though it doesn't describe a state and it does take an object?
I think it's more that the verb is highly tied to an adjective, like yashen. Yashen, it has a tzere. Yashen means asleep, as an adjective, yashen. But we take it also as an adjective, asleep, but also as a verb, sleeping. You know what I mean? So you can take yashen and put it in the past tense and say yashanti, yashanti. And there's just something about the aleph itself, because it's a
guttural,
quiescent.
Yeah,
it's quiescent. It's lost all of its sense. It's as if it's not there. The presence of the aleph is what's keeping the vowel as a tzere instead of switching it to patach. Because every other verb of this form, if it doesn't have aleph, it switches to patach.
Right, but I thought if the aleph quiesced, shouldn't that become a kametz?
No, for whatever reason, with this verb, you always say saneti. You can't ever say sanati.
I understand. No, I'm speaking of this. I'm speaking of the third aleph verbs in general, like matzah.
Well, because normally third aleph verbs already have an a sound, like bara
or matzah.
Like matzah. No, matzah is hey. Matzati.
No, matzah to find.
Matzah. Okay, I'm sorry. Matzati. Yeah, with aleph.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. So anyway, that tzere interests me, and so I thought that I realize it's pointed that way. Statives describe.
You know, we have matzah with aleph, and we also have mitzah with hey. Mitzah or mitziti in the PL. Mitziti means I've had enough of something.
But is
we have a question.
No, Jonathan says, according to
Sal,
statives describe characteristics, circumstances, and emotional states. But so, Jonathan, would you think that the verb hate here is a characteristic, a circumstance, or it's not an emotional state? So, do you think that Sal would consider that a characteristic?
I think it's emotion. Hateful is sin'ah.
But ahav is an emotion. Well, that doesn't end with an aleph either. And say ahav is an emotion.
Right, and so ahav also has with both of these words, both of these statives, these emotional words, saneh and ahev, you have two forms. In the present tense, you can say saneh or ahev, or you can say soneh, which is like a later development of the participle to make it match the rest, and ohev. Ohev and ahev are both participial forms.
Oh, that is right. You are right.
Just like we also have the word lamed. Lamed means learning or studying, but eventually they switched it to the more common lomed. originally it was lamed, which was kind of thought of as a state of verb as well. Lamed.
Okay. That makes more sense. I had forgotten about that. So I'm going to just quickly check. Yeah, BDB points it as 𝗥𝗓𝗦𝗡. And you have 𝗥𝗓𝗦𝗡, and looks like DCH says you have both 𝗥𝗓𝗦 and 𝗥𝗓 for to love.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, that kind of answers it. To love as a stative is used in Ruth. That's probably right. I'm not Ruth is not one of the books I have committed to memory yet. Okay, so then verse 6, right?
Yep, verse 6.
𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗘𝗥𝗩𝗘.
The Nikayon.
Yeah, did I put the accent on the wrong syllable?
No, I heard dikayon.
Oh no, sorry. Then if I said it that way, I said it wrong. But nikayom kapi the aso viva et mitzbach. I can't read that vowel. Is that a hirak? Mitzbachacha. So that is a patach under the bait. I don't know. I can't read it on my screen. So it means your altar, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
let's make it bigger. I'll show you. Hold on.
Well, I'm like I told you. There it is. Okay, Ms. Thank you for making it bigger, larger. So, rahatz, that is, I wash in the innocence of my feet. No. Yeah, the innocence of my feet. No.
Not feet, but
hands. To run, isn't it?
No. Awutz is everyone. Yeah. It's like I'll wash my hands in cleanliness.
Okay, I wash my hands in cleanliness, and I surround, I circle around your altar, oh Lord.
Right. Yeah. Normally, when you say lilchot, you say lilchot yadayim. Yadayim, kapayim. Kapayim are the hands.
Right. I was.
If you think about the divisions of the arm, which are different from in English.
Right.
In English, you generally think hand, right? And you think palm and back of the hand.
Right.
Forearm, upper arm, shoulder.
Right. Correct.
So in Hebrew, the word yad, which most people think is hands, yad. Yad is actually the entire thing. The whole thing is yad.
Oh.
From fingers to shoulder is yad. So the hand is called kaf yad. Kaf yad, you have kaf yad and kaf regel. Kaf.
Yeah.
Okay. This part is called amma.
Right.
Amma. And the upper arm is called zroa. Zroa. The shoulder is called katif. Katif.
So is zroa for upper arm?
Yeah.
Also present in the Hebrew Bible?
Yeah. Okay. Think of Isaiah 53. I got a lot of Isaiah 53 in my head.
That's okay.
I'm just going to open another tab.
I've only heard of zeroa as meaning arm, not as being restricted to upper arm. That's why I was asking.
So think of it like if somebody is trying to show you how strong they are, they're going to roll up their sleeve and show you their arm.
Okay.
So when it says Zroa Adonai al mi niglata, like to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? It's saying that God is pulling back his sleeve and showing his strength. Zroa Adonai al mi niglata. Mi he'emin lishmoatenu uzroa Adonai al mi niglata. Upon whom.
Jonathan is correctly noting in the chat that the arm of God is used in Exodus as well. It's probably in that poem in Exodus 15 that I can't.
The whole idea of God using his strength to bring the people out of Egypt is expressed in a couple of ways. One is zoa, like Jonathan says. The other is yad netuya, outstretched hand.
An outstretched hand.
Yad netuya.
Right.
But so the entire thing is called the yad. So if when you lay tefillin, I don't know if you know what tefillin is. It's the phylacteries that you wrap around your arm and your head. You put one around, like in the forehead, that goes around the head.
Mm-hmm.
So you say tefillin shel yad. Tefillin shel yad is the arm tefillin. It goes on the upper arm right here, and it ties around and then down the arm in circles, and then around the hand and through the fingers. And then there's tefillin shel rosh. Rosh, it goes on the head, and it ties around in the back with a knot and comes down. So tefillin shel yad. This is considered hand, yad, in Hebrew.
Okay, Jason, I need to excuse myself for a second. I will be back in a moment, but I'm going to put myself on mute and stop my camera for a second. So I just wanted to let you know.
No problem. I'll go on to the next verse. Okay, so we are on verse 7, and now I'm by myself. להשמיע בקול תודה ולספר כל נפלאותיך. Okay, I'm going to go again slower. להשמיע בקול תודה ולספר כל נפלאותיך. נפלאותיך. So let's start at the end. Niflaot. Niflaot are wonders, like it's from the word pele, wonderful things. Niflaot. The aleph is lost whenever it goes into construct and becomes nifleot. And we've got nifleotecha are your wonders, all your wonders. Ulesaper kol nifleotecha. And to recount or to tell all your wonders. Okay, so this is why he comes to God's altar. He says, I will wash my hands in cleanliness, and I will go around your altar, O Lord. To lashmiya, this is a hifil, hishmiya, but it's lacking the hay. The hay is missing, and also the yod. It's written as if it were lishmoa, to hear, but it's lehashmiya, to make heard. Lehashmiya bikol toda, to make thanksgiving heard with a voice, means out loud. Bikol means aloud, with a voice. You say something bikol, you say it out loud. Whereas if you say something belachash, you say it in a whisper. So he's saying to make thanksgiving heard aloud. Ulesaper kol niflaotecha. Why do I go to your altar? To express my thanks aloud and to recount all of the wonderful things that you've done. Okay, so this is why he's going to the altar. But notice that sometimes that hifil, hishmiya, lehashmiya, sometimes the hay is missing, and it's marked by the patach underneath the lamed. Lashmiya is like lehashmiya. It's because these two vowels sit on the opposite sides of the letter hay, and then they cause the hay to drop out, the intervocalic hay. This is what we have with the names Yehonatan, that has a hay, Yehonatan, and the same name Yonatan, where the hay that's between the two vowels, the e and the o, drops out, and instead of Yehonatan, we have Yonatan. So this way, instead of lehashmiya, we have lashmiya. And it means to make heard, to make people hear. All right, I felt like I was preaching. Oh my goodness.
Well, if you're ever in Northern California and you want to come into my my church to preach a sermon,
a message about Hebrew grammar,
right, you're welcome to do so. Okay,
all right, we're on verse 8, which is
verse 8, right? So Adonai ahavti. Oh, and here's ahav, and here it's ahavti, not a havti. So Adonai ahavti me'on beitecha u'makom mishkan kevodecha. So, O Lord, I love the dwelling of your house, and the place of your tabernacle, of your glory? Because Mishkan is in construct, is it not?
Yeah.
So the place of the dwelling or the tabernacling of your glory.
Yeah. The place of the dwelling. The place of the dwelling place of your glory. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting to me about this verse is, first of all, it has the verb ahav that Jonathan and you and I had talked about before. But also, last Sunday, I preached out of 2 Samuel 7, which talks about David wanting to build a bayit for God, and God saying, no, I have only dwelt in an ohel and a mishkan since the day that I brought the children of Israel up out of Egypt. And the problem is, of course, that in Judges 18 and in 1 Samuel 1 and 3 and in 2 Samuel 12, there are references to either the Beit HaElohim or the Beit Adonai that Samuel's mom and Samuel and David are going to. So I mentioned that to my congregation as the question, how can they be going to something that doesn't exist yet? Because David asked God for permission. David said he wanted to build the bayit, and then God said, no, it will be Solomon that builds the bayit. So the reference.
So do you think it's not possible that the Mishkan itself was called also Beit Adonai at some point? Because I know that they would go, like in 1 Samuel, we have what's his name? The husband of Hannah. Not Elimelech.
I don't remember his name. I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember.
But he would go every year to Beit Adonai in Shiloh.
So the interesting thing is that David Tsumura in the NICOT commentary series mentions that. He says that an ohel, he doesn't talk about Mishkan, but he says that an ohel can be considered a bayit. And I emailed him and said, well, is there a place, can you cite a place in the Hebrew Bible where the ohel of the Lord is parallel to or equated with the Beit of the Lord? He hasn't gotten back to me on that yet, but I couldn't find anything in the Hebrew Bible that equated the ohel of the Lord and the Beit of the Lord.
Well, so we see two expressions here. One, it just says, ועלה האיש ההוא מימים ימימה להשתחוות לזבוח לאדוני צבאות בשילה ושם שני ברורה. Okay, so it just says that he would offer sacrifice. He would go to bow down and offer sacrifice to God in Shiloh. And then down here it literally says, just like you said, it says, וכן יעשה שנה ושנה מדי עלותה בבית אדוני כל תכיסנה.
Right. And if you go back to Judges 18:31, then you will see that there's a reference. That's where the reference to the Beit HaElohim in Shiloh is.
So that's fantastic, because that's exactly what we saw just now, that they would go to the house of the Lord.
But they don't call it a house. But they call it a house. They don't call it an ohel or a mishkan.
I don't see it here. There's 35. You said 831, right? I don't see Beit. Yes,
okay. And I'm obviously misremembering the verse. Let me go back and find it for you, because I had mentioned it in my sermon on Sunday. So that is in.
This is. Hold on. This is Judges chapter 8.
No, but I'm talking about Judges 18.
Oh, 18. Sorry, I heard 8. Okay.
Well,
so
I may have said it wrong too.
Beit Micha, Beit Micha, Beit Micha, Beit.
Judges 18, verse 31.
The
Lord, the Beit HaElohim was at Shiloh. In Judges 18.
Beit HaElohim b'Shiloh. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
the question is,
וישימו להם את פסל מיכה אשר עשה כל ימי היות בית האלוהים בשילה. As long as the house of God was in Shiloh.
right, and obviously it was still there in 1 Samuel 1, so it's probably still there in 1 Samuel 3.
So it's considering the Mishkan specifically Beit Elohim, I think, if we understand that the Mishkan was what was in Shiloh before it was moved to the city of David.
That's one way of looking at it. But
or do you think that there was a temple built there?
No. Most of the other scholars who talk about 2 Samuel 7 think that reference in 2 Samuel 7 is an exilic or a post-exilic edition after the Babylonians had fallen, because they see it as a contradiction to Judges 18 and 1 Samuel 1. They do not. Think that
saying that it was specifically God that said that there would not be a house. Right. Okay.
He said that he never asked for one. He hasn't dwelt in one. So even if the Mishkan is in the Beit HaElohim in Judges 18, which it doesn't mention the Mishkan, I don't think, in Judges 18:31.
But I mean, there was also the issue that, let's see, about house.
Yeah. So anyway,
I had another verse pop into my mind, but I've forgotten it. It doesn't matter, I guess.
David does go up to the house of the Lord after the child that is born out of his adulterous affair with Bathsheba is killed.
Oh, I remember. Sorry.
So those are the other four places.
I'll let you finish that in just a second. Just to remind you, Bethel, Beit El, with Jacob.
Right.
Okay.
But I don't think that is the Beit HaElohim or the Beit Adonai that David has in mind in 2 Samuel 7.
Right. But it would seem that if Bethel was a place, Beit El, that God's house isn't something that has to be permanently placed, I think. But I think that that's probably the idea is that David was suggesting, let's make a permanent house for you, and you will dwell. Your home will be in Jerusalem.
Right. No, that's clearly what David wants. The question is,
just like all the other gods in the Greek pantheon and whatever, they had temples that were situated in specific cities.
Right. The question for me is, how can God say that he hasn't dwelt in a house when there are all these references to houses, of God and houses of the Lord and Judges and 1 Samuel 1 and 3 and 2 Samuel 12 before Solomon builds the permanent, quote unquote, house of the Lord in 1 Kings 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah. It kind of makes it a little bit confusing for somebody who's just reading the text, and it says, and they went up to the house of the Lord, because automatically you think the temple in Jerusalem.
That is correct.
And you forget that whenever you're reading 1 Samuel, that's not happening in the temple in Jerusalem, where Samuel is actually being called.
Right.
And that was something odd to me, because I was imagined as when I was younger, the story of Samuel was taking place in the courtyard of the temple. That's not the case at all. They were that Eli and his sons were serving in the tabernacle in Shiloh, not in Jerusalem.
Right.
But then again, when I was young, I kind of thought that Shiloh and Jerusalem were the same place, and they aren't.
Right. And they are not.
All right. Verse 9. Al ta'asof im chata'im nafshi. Te'esof, excuse me. Al te'esof, we often say ta'asof. I just read it wrong. Al te'esof im chata'im nafshi. Ve'im anshe damim chayai. Chayai is the object of the elided verb te'esof. Te'esof is playing double duty here. Ve'im anshe damim chayai. So te'esof is it's going to be the yiktol, functioning as a negative commandment or a negative request in this case. Do not gather with sinners, my soul. Don't gather my soul together with sinners, right?
Right.
And with men of blood, my life. My life and my soul are the same thing.
Right.
Chayai and Shi is the same thing. So don't gather my life with men of blood. Men of blood means murderers, people who kill.
Right.
All right. Can't spend too much time on that verse. It's pretty straightforward. Chata'im, sinners. But it could be chata'im. It could also be sins. So 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗚𝗛𝗧, sinners.
But that's unlikely given the parallel with anshe, right?
Right. So chet takes its plural as chataim, chataim, but also chata. Chata is a sinner, and chataim are sinners. So
Right.
the chataim can be either one, but in this case, anshe damim and chataim are in parallel. They both refer to sinners and murderers.
Okay, then verse 10 is asher bidehem zimah viminam mala'a shochad.
Oops, sorry, didn't mean to go forward.
That's okay. So, and this is continuing to describe the sinners and the murderers. Verse 9, you could, I suppose, argue that it's just the murderers, but since I think those two groups of people are in parallel, I think it applies to both. So there's whose hands or who their hands are full of evil.
How about this word, bidehem, who in their hands.
Oh, right. In their hands are evil or is evil.
Zima could be a more specific kind of evil, like treachery, plotting to do bad things.
Yeah, it's not the word rasha or ra. That is right. And their right hand is full of I think that's bribes.
Yeah, bribery. Yeah.
The right hand is full of bribes. Muriel
has we still don't use that today, shochad. That's a very common word because corruption and bribery and all of that stuff is a real issue.
It's not like any of that ever is happening these days. Here, there.
I say it's a problem in Israel, but it's a problem everywhere. Bribery and corruption.
Muriel has added a comment that says David himself was a man of blood, which is why David did not allow him to build the temple. And that is a correct recollection of what was stated in 2 Samuel 7. That is right.
Be aware that there are rabbinic interpretations that try to get David out of the guilt and try to make it seem as if he didn't do anything wrong. But I think that the plain reading of the text is that David brought death to Uriah. And not only that, but even just being a soldier, someone who killed, like he killed Goliath and whatever, that's a man of blood as well.
Right. And what do the women say? Saul has killed his thousands, and David his tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Right. So that it definitely seems to me that as a soldier of great renown, David was the cause of death of people. I don't think there's much way to get around that.
I mean, if we read the text to be like an historical accounting of David's life, then for sure David had a lot of blood on his hands.
Oh, but even if sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But even if you read it as a narrative about David, the intention of the narrative is to show what a fabulous warrior he is. Whether you read it as a historical report or as a narrative tradition, the intention of the narrator or the historiographer is to depict David as this unbeatable soldier. So he had to be a man of blood, whether that was or not.
I think that if you read the Chronicles tales of David, it makes him less guilty.
Could be. And I'll mention last thing.
We've got two verses. to go. We've got 6 minutes.
Yeah. So
verse 11.
Yeah.
Va'ani betumi elech pdeini v'choneni. Right. So va'ani is like being very specific. It's emphatic. And as for me, va'ani. Oh, Colton is here. Hello.
Oh, hi, Colton.
Va'ani betumi elech. I shall walk in my innocence. And as for me, I shall walk in my innocence. Deni, redeem me. Like this is redeem, like if you say save something from being killed.
Right.
Like if you In Jewish law, the firstborn of every womb is to be killed, to be slaughtered. But we do pidyon haben, like is the first male that breaks a womb is to be killed, to be devoted to God. But we do pidyon haben, means the redemption of the boy, to pay money instead of having the baby killed. And so this is lifdot, to redeem. You redeem people so that they don't get killed. And choneni is have compassion on me. Choneni. Choneni. This is from Yachon. Yachon becomes choneni. It looks like it's chet nun, but it is chet nun.
Yeah.
Related to word and grace or mercy. Yeah. Okay. Next.
Okay, so verse 12 is Ragli Amada b'mishor v'maklehim. No, sorry, v'makhelim avarek Adonai. So my foot, although it probably should be my feet, my foot stands in righteousness, and amongst the assemblers, which I'm assuming the assemblers who are worshiping, amongst the assemblers I will bless.
It might be the assemblies themselves or congregations. Maybe.
So this is the place where they assemble, not the people that are assembling?
According to Halot, it's assembly or congregation.
I wouldn't have thought about that. I would have. Okay. I will defer to 𝗥𝗚𝗦𝗘𝗥𝗡. I took it as a noun and not as a place. So, and in the assemblies, I will bless the Lord.
All right, and mishur is like a flat place, right? Meaning he's not going to fall down. He's standing on a flat place, a plane.
Did I get? Oh, you know what? I'm confusing that with a verb from a different, with a word from a different root. But yeah, I think mishor, because he talks about that in Isaiah 40, where he makes the rough lands flat. So
no, but I think it might be the same word, because it's like the straight, like yashar, like it's to make it straight, like the quickest thing, the flat thing. It's probably related, but I don't think you were off. Just you saw the root, and I was like, no, that makes sense.
Could be.
I think that we handled things very differently in this session. Using Mechon Mamre made it really easy to go between different passages, and because it's only Hebrew, it doesn't have a bunch of extra stuff on there. It just pops the Hebrew text right up.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that with going back and forth between the different passages, I think we handled a lot of Hebrew in this session, and I think it was really good.
Yep.
All right. Well, we are going to cut over to Wine Green. Who's joining me of you guys?
I will be there.
I will not be there today. I got to go. It's my turn to take care of my dog that's lost her reproductive rights. But thank you for having me today. I do not believe that I'll be able to be here on the 5th, and then school starts for me on the 12th. If I can rearrange my schedule to make the 5th work, then I will try and be here on the 5th, but I will make no promises to that effect.
Okay. Well, we hope to see you either way. Thanks so much for participating today.
Have a good afternoon.
We're heading over to Wine Green Part 1. See everybody over there.
Bye.
Woohoo!